This is Mrs. Adams. Well, Mrs. Adams, we've been admiring your new home.
Well, it's not so new. In fact, it's over 30 years old.
5 years ago, this was a vast checkerboard of potato farms on New York's Long Island. Today, a community of 60,000 persons living in 15,000 homes, all built by one firm. This is Levittown, one of the most remarkable housing developments ever conceived.
In post-World War II America, mothers and fathers were welcoming home their children. Businesses were finally able to turn a profit again. Industries were no longer dedicated to providing wartime support, and America could finally go back to focusing on America again. In this frantic search for normalcy, a new and overly industrialized workforce began to recreate what it meant to be an American, and thus spawned the notion of the American dream. Your own house, with a 2-car garage to store your essential automobiles, a small, green, unproductive plot of land surrounded by a white picket fence, a wife that cooks, and kids that don't talk back. Maybe even a dog to finish the picture of the perfect American life. This is the image that Levittown sold to millions of post-war Americans whose only fault was wanting a better life after the war. They ignorantly piled into Bill Levitt's mass-produced creative stillbirths faster than they could be assembled, and unknowingly set the standard for suburban development for decades to come. These suburban pioneers would have huge impacts on the baby boom, highway expansion and vehicle dependence, and the rise of the home television set.
You can have vegetables, lots of them, on your table next winter. You can have your own fresh vegetables on your table this summer if you have your own Victory Garden. Yes, there's no restriction on home canning and home processing of vegetables and garden fruits and berries. Plan your Victory Garden now. Get your garden plot lined up. Get the advice of a garden expert if you need it, and be prepared to grow your own for victory. Join a garden club or community garden movement, or share a garden with your neighbor. You can help win the battle of food production. You can help our fighting men get the food they need. You can help save the vital metals used in commercial canning if you grow your own Victory Garden in 1943. For further information, write to Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C. Victory Gardens, Washington, D.C.
During the war, Victory Gardens were all the rage. The U.S. government began to encourage citizens to plant their own home gardens in order to unburden the agricultural industry from local production, so they could focus more on feeding the soldiers. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that more than 20 million Victory Gardens were planted. Fruit and vegetables harvested in these home and community plots was estimated to be 9 to 10 million tons, an amount equal to all commercial production of fresh vegetables, so the program made a difference.
The American people have been asked to plant 22 million Victory Gardens in 1944, an increase of 2 million. We know now how much these gardens mean to the war effort, and this city's rolling up its sleeves and going to work.
Let's go to Levittown, a modern garden community in Long Island, New York. A community designed for modern living.
But as soon as the soldiers came home and industry turned its sights inward once again, it quickly became untrendy to grow your own food. Levittown succeeded in convincing people that they don't need their land to be productive, that mowed lawns and sprinkler systems were signs of success, that one had made it through their struggles, and they were better than working for their own food. This trend continued until it was the standard, not the exception, among American suburbs, and for a long time, hardly anyone felt the need to produce their own food at home until recently. With massive population increases, climate change, and other large-scale global impacts on the agricultural system, the conversation has recently taken a radical shift. Individuals, cities, and corporations alike are taking note of the potential food shortage looming on the horizon. They are working to encourage an increase in creative forms of urban and suburban agriculture at many different scales. But for some culture, this isn't a lesson that needs to be learned. It's part of life, the way it always has been.
Perched atop a rocky strip of land projecting into the Mediterranean Sea in the northwest portion of the African continent, Tripoli, with a population of 1.1 million people, is Libya's capital and largest city. Founded in the 7th century BC by the Phoenicians, Tripoli now boasts Libya's most metropolitan areas. With almost 2 million square kilometers of land, Libya only dedicates roughly 10% of that land to agricultural practices. The majority of agricultural practices in Libya occur in one of two ways: a commercial-scale, government-funded farms that produce supported food, which is sold much cheaper than market price, and smaller-scale, private farms and traditional urban home gardens. Neighborhoods within the city of Tripoli are supported by fresh food, delivered daily from local, public, and private farms, and food rarely travels more than 15 to 30 kilometers from its source. Even an equitable distribution of produce occurs in all areas in order to guarantee food quality, save energy, lower emissions not attainable through long-distance shipping. The markets that distribute the food at the local neighborhood level are considered valuable third places for gathering, socializing, and bringing people together to chat and share in their daily lives. Many people in the suburban ring of Tripoli are able to meet their own basic food needs through home gardens and private farms. There are shared cultural values to desire food independence, to wisely conserve one's money, and to produce as many of one's needs at home as possible. The garden also functions as a place of cross-generational and cultural integration. Children and seniors are able to interact, learn from one another, and celebrate their shared cultural heritage in the garden. The government does not officially support urban agriculture, nor does it have any need to regulate it. The culture does not support laws that limit what one is able to do with their land, and without urban development contamination, they have optimal soils to support these efforts. Issues that prevent urban agriculture from taking root in other cities, including lack of understanding of traditional farming practices, negative impressions around the appearance of urban farms, concerns with contaminated soils, and questions about consuming vegetables grown in urban conditions, are not present in Tripoli because the people accept and acknowledge food as an integral part of their lives, culture, and tradition.
The Bucking Horse neighborhood of Fort Collins, Colorado offers an interesting case study on how the modern lack of community is being readdressed through agriculture. Known as an agrihood, Bucking Horse offers its residents a unique community center, a farm. By using food, healthy living, and other livable city design strategies, Bucking Horse is able to reverse some of the community flaws instilled by Bill Levitt.
The agricultural component found at Bucking Horse is not meant to fully supply the dietary needs of its residents, but functions as an educational tool to inspire community members to grow food and create a common denominator among residents for healthy living. Open space at Bucking Horse is almost entirely reserved for the production of edible plants and on-site restaurant grows its own produce and has chickens for fresh eggs, much like a more traditional agricultural village.
Aside from providing agricultural access and supporting healthy living, Bucking Horse caters to its residents' social and economic needs as well. A centrally located artisan village allows community members to start their own small business walking distance from their house, with equal or greater access and incentives when compared to a public market. This allows for the community to grow and support one another in a democratic and equitable way over time. With city living amenities walking distance from home, Bucking Horse directly challenges Levittown's dependence on automobiles. The artisan village not only benefits the residents, but benefits from the residents and becomes a valuable third place for an otherwise isolated suburb.
When it comes to the livability of a place, it has become clear that agriculture can play a significant role in a neighborhood's sense of community. For those in Levittown, the complete removal of any trace of agriculture allowed for unsustainable, predatory economics to rot away at the core of American community. Paradoxically, in Tripoli, the acceptance and celebration of the region's self-reliant food system has supported and enriched the culture and community of those who live there. Now, in 2016, Americans are attempting to reintroduce agriculture as a community-driving element in order to outcompete other artificially imposed neighborhoods. Ultimately, it will come down to each of us as designers to figure out how to integrate food systems into our urban fabric. So, how will you grow?